What's up, y'all? You know what time it is. It's about to be that time.
What's up, YouTube, and welcome to the Layup Line. Today I wanted to talk about the Milwaukee Bucks. Now, as of the recording of this video, Giannis is yet to sign a Supermax extension with Milwaukee, and after an offseason with key changes to the roster, the front office and Bucks fans are confident the two-time MVP will be extending his stay in Milwaukee. Rival front offices in both conferences are still making roster moves to leave the financial room to sign a max free agent like Giannis next summer, but there's still been a growing hope in Wisconsin that Giannis will avoid free agency altogether and sign before the season starts. Now, December 21st is the deadline for Giannis to sign a Supermax with Milwaukee, and to this point, declining to sign that extension has been a signal to front offices of a trade request. Paul George, Kawhi Leonard, and Anthony Davis are all max level players who declined that max extension with their original teams, and they were promptly traded in the fear that they would leave as free agents. Granted, those situations were pretty different from where Giannis stands now, and it might even be in the Greek Freak's best interest to go into the season without extending his commitment to the Bucks and give himself a way out if the team disappoints. We saw last season an MVP caliber player in Kevin Durant sign a max deal despite a devastating Achilles injury, so Giannis can likely expect that max money to be there no matter what happens with the season. Extending mainly benefits the Bucks, although you can argue getting rid of the distraction free agency brings might help the team and organization lock in and perform better. Giannis' decision to stay or leave with Milwaukee will decide the future of the Bucks through the 2020s, so I wanted to rewind and see the good, the bad, and the ugly of how the team was built around him to this point. I started looking with the 2017 playoffs because after this season, I thought the Bucks really started to hand the franchise over to Giannis. Their 2017 season ended in a 6-game series to the Toronto Raptors in a moment that to me personifies the Bucks' biggest need for development in the playoffs. With 10 seconds left on the clock, Milwaukee's down by 3, and Giannis and the Bucks fail to generate a look from 3 in the half court, and Giannis drives for an uncontested dunk that he knows will not take them to overtime. Giannis has led the Bucks that season in usage rate, but the difference between Giannis and the next highest player was 1.8. In 2018, the difference between Giannis and the next highest player was 5.2. Now, the 2018 season, the Bucks would only see a 2-game increase in wins despite dropping from the 6th to the 7th seed and parting ways with their head coach Jason Kidd. Now, since 2003, the Bucks have alternated between exiting the playoffs in the first round or missing the playoffs altogether, and they've only ever been bad enough for a top pick in 2015 when they drafted Jabari Parker 3rd overall. But after injuries and Giannis' emergence as a star this season, it was decided that Parker was no longer fit and he departed seeking a larger role. I can't argue with the thought process of moving on from Jabari, especially since it seemed like he wanted to leave. My issue is that they renounced his rights and allowed him to leave for absolutely nothing, and that was the first in a pattern of transactions that depleted the few assets that the Bucks did have. Because Giannis emerged from being a developmental project at the 15th pick, the team needed to adjust to building around him, and I even think that they did this fairly quick. They had one of the steals of the 2016 draft in Malcolm Brogdon, who would go on to win Rookie of the Year, and by his 3rd season, he was giving them nearly 16 points per game on 50-40-90 efficiency. They had Chris Middleton, who was on the last year of an underpaid deal, and they had Eric Bledsoe, who was a near elite level defensive player. But outside of those core 4 players, the Bucks roster was mostly veteran role players on overpaid deals, and the 2016 draft selection in Thon Maker, who was looking woefully short of some superstar projections and a waste of a top 10 pick. So to this point, the Bucks nailed their 2014 draft selection with Giannis, although he did need some time to develop. And in 2015, they missed, and despite the strong start to Jabari's career, injury and fit would see that their top draft pick was wasted there as well. In 2016, they reached for another project player in Thon Maker, who was supposed to be a 7-footer with guard and wing skills, but that was ultimately another wasted pick. 2016, they did get some value in the draft with a 2nd-round steal in Malcolm Brogdon, but he only spent 3 years with the team as a result of them prioritizing re-signing Eric Bledsoe. And to be clear, the Bucks had the money to spend on both Brogdon and Bledsoe. They could have brought him back in addition to the extension they gave Bledsoe, but the front office was worried about Malcolm's long-term health, considering he had missed 60 total regular season games in his first 3 seasons, and they didn't want to limit their future financial flexibility by hard capping themselves and re-signing them both. In my eyes, there are 3 main ways that a team improves. Internal growth, such as young players like Giannis and Brogdon being developed into bigger roles. There are also draft assets, which also plays a part in that internal growth aspect, but drafting a top pick in theory is supposed to make you better. But the Bucks' most impactful selections were outside of the draft lottery. And the final way to improve is via trade or signing. Now, here's a list of the notable Bucks transactions during this time period that have shaped what their roster is today. They let a top 3 pick in Jabari Parker leave for nothing at all, not a sign and trade for a future pick or young prospect, just nothing. They also wasted a top 10 pick on a project player who never ended up developing in Thon Maker. They extended Eric Bledsoe, which prevented them from being able to bring back Malcolm Brogdon, who fit the roster better, but they did get a future draft pick in a trade to Indiana for him. They extended Chris Middleton for max dollars and signed Brook Lopez, who did turn out to be a decent stretch 5 option for them while also playing all NBA level defense. Now, the Bucks have had their hits and a number of misses, but those misses hurt them really badly. There's a real high opportunity cost when making a deal that ends up failing. It's common to see a team draft poorly, so I can excuse the misses on Maker and Parker, especially since they got so much value out of Giannis and Brogdon. But the Bucks then flipped Brogdon for no immediate help but a future pick in a year that they would lose in the conference finals because they didn't have enough perimeter shooting and playmaking. This brings me to this past offseason where their big acquisition for the Bucks was Jrue Holiday. Now, adding Jrue Holiday is a huge upgrade to the roster and a player with the skills that they were missing in the playoffs. But to add him, the team moved 3 first-round picks and 2 pick swaps for a player whose last All-Star appearance was 7 years ago. I've heard from a lot of people that the price of Jrue was worth it for a contending team like the Bucks, especially if it gives Giannis the confidence in the front office to extend. But this makes me less confident in the front office personally. I like Jrue, but is he 5 first-round picks, George Hill, and Eric Bledsoe better than the team that they were last season? The moves the Bucks made emptied out most of their future draft assets and depleted what little depth that they did have to make the move possible. Now, let's say the Bucks go into the season with Giannis extended, and Brook Lopez continues his trend of declining shooting, or even if the team wants to swap Lopez out or any other piece for someone they think fits better. They don't have the draft picks to add and make a deal more appealing because they traded 5 of them away for a guy who's not going to get any better over the next 5 years. They don't have much young talent that other teams will want, and you could argue that they should be keeping the few ones that they do have to try and develop into something sustainable. And they would be especially limited financially with Giannis under a Supermax deal, making it even harder to make changes if they're unhappy with results in future years. All this means is that the Bucks will have to win. I don't really feel strongly one way or another if Giannis should choose to leave Milwaukee or not, but when I look back at each Bucks offseason since he's emerged for them as the main guy, my main takeaway has been that it's been pretty underwhelming and fairly disappointing. Thank you for watching this latest episode of the Layup Line. Let me know in the comments what you think, where you'd like to see Giannis play, and what do you think about the Bucks front office moving forward. If you learned something new, or if you appreciated this video, subscribe and hit the bell for post notifications for new videos. Thank you and have a good one. Peace.